TESOL Pop, Season 11, Episode 12. What do potato characters, a classroom hamster, and a million hours of environmental education have in common? Well, today's guest, Patrick Jackson, will connect the dots for us. Hi there, welcome to TESOL Pop, the mini podcast for busy teachers. I'm your host, Laura Wilkes, and in this episode, I'm joined by Patrick, ELT author and creator of Pick a Pals, a simple yet powerful environmental program for primary schools. Patrick shares how one of his class packs sparked a whole movement that's removed over 800 tonnes of rubbish from the environment, empowered thousands of children, and brought families together, all while supporting learning along the way. So let's join the conversation where Patrick tells us what Pick a Pals is all about.
Well, Pick a Pals is an environmental program for primary schools. It encourages and equips primary school children to lead their families on litter picking adventures. And it's centered around this pack, which we send out to schools. And that pack contains all the kit that they need to go out litter picking with their family. So it has high-vis vests and pickers and gloves. And what we do is we send those out to the classrooms. And then the teacher gives a different child the pack each week. And so they're incredibly excited to go home with the pack, and then they take their parents out litter picking. And we also have a whole curriculum with books, storybooks, activity books, songs, and other available things like, dot-to-dots and colouring pages and a whole curriculum of environmental stuff. So it's trying to make them into young sort of enthusiasts for environmental stewardship. And it's been very popular in Ireland, and now we're spreading out around the world.
Tell us about that, because you're now not just in Ireland, you're in France as well, and other places. You've helped thousands of schools, if I'm not mistaken. I was looking at your website earlier today. Can you just give us a big picture of how big is this program that you have now?
Well, like all things, it started with the school next door and the school that my kids went to. And so that was our first school, and that was must be 5 or 6 years ago now. And then it spread from, with the support of local authorities and government and corporates who have supported us, it spread to the point now where it's in 72% of Irish primary schools. And that means we've actually got those packs into 5,000 classrooms, which has made a big impact on the environment, because it means that altogether, if you add up the amount of litter picking, that's, it's 800 and something tons of rubbish taken out of the environment. And also we've delivered over 1 million hours of environmental education. So we've had an impact, and that feels good. And now we've started in the UK, where it's going well, and we're focusing on 40 schools in the coming school year. Actually, in this school year, sorry. And then we'll be spreading that out in the coming years. And then France, Portugal, and very much hoping that people listening to this podcast around the world, I gather you have many countries listening to your podcast.
We do, yeah.
So we do have a place on our website where we are happy for people to pop in an expression of interest. And that means that you'll be on our radar, and when we get to your country, or it might even inspire us to get to your country.
Where you started and where you are now, like you said, you're having a huge impact, taking tons of rubbish out of the environment. I think for listeners tuning in, that can feel like such a huge thing to get to, but we all start somewhere. Like you said, you started with your local school, but I also wonder if we rewind a little bit more, what gave you the initial idea and inspiration to set up this program?
I was a teacher in Japan for years, and I started writing storybooks and materials for my students. And these were about some potato characters, little potatoes who went around doing stuff. So I sent those books off to Oxford University Press, who picked them up and published them. And that led to a career as an author of ELT course books, including some that you may know. Some Everybody Up is one of them, and Shine On is another one, both of them primary courses. And that was great, and still is. They're still going strong, those books. But When I came back to live in Ireland, I started getting involved in local environmental issues, particularly a wastewater issue near my house. And then I started litter picking. So I became that guy on the pier who was always litter picking. Now there's a story behind that, but I'll spare you. But then I thought, is there a way of, because when you're a litter picker, you're always thinking, oh, I can't, I wish I could spend the whole day doing it, or I wish there was 100 me's, because you're so aware of how enormous the problem is and how much there is to do for all of us. So I thought, is there a way of putting my educational writing together with this interest? So I came up with some characters and some stories, and then this idea of the pick-a-pack, which is really the same idea as Classroom Teddy and Classroom Hamster. And, it's that thing where a kid takes home something every week, and then that sort of generates a load of stories, and that generates a whole bunch of opportunities for feedback and responsibility. So if you're taking home the class Teddy or the class Hamster, you have to be very sure not to lose it. It is about responsibility and ownership of an action or an area in this case. So that's really where it came from.
And that's brilliant. That is very much a community project. It's not just living within the school itself, although the school is the hub where it all starts, but that students, children are bringing this into their families and their local communities. And that's where obviously it's becoming more than just something that happens during school time, but becoming embedded in, our day-to-day awareness. And what a lovely way to also include the families, friends that surround that student in this whole project.
Yes, and families have been incredibly positively responsive. We've had something like 300,000 litter picking adventures, which is what we call them. And I love to think that each of those is a moment where a family together will be doing something that is somewhat different to what they might normally be doing of a weekend. And, parents have been really hugely positive about it, saying, we never realized this could be so much fun. And I love the idea of a sort of, because actually as a parent, it's sometimes quite hard to think of things to do with your children. I mean, I have two kids and at the weekend, there's a relatively limited number of things you can do. So when some new activity comes that nobody's usually done before, and then you're equipped and you're going out and they have great fun, and it opens up a whole new thing for them. And actually tons of them say, where can we get our own litter pickers and a kit? So we know from that, and then there's the child that asks for a litter picker for Christmas, and you're like, oh no, that's just too moving. You think, okay, well, we've definitely made the world a bit better in that kid's life. So
when you reflect on this journey you're on, and that child asking for a litter picker for Christmas, and all that impact it's having, how did you get to where you are? Like, so for folk listening, they'll think, oh, well, how can I have an impact? How can I get started? It can feel like such a insurmountable big step when you think about all the work that's gone on, obviously, in behind the scenes that's got you to where you are today. So I wonder if you have any tips for listeners to kind of help them to start think about the kind of smaller steps and actions they could be taking to start generating momentum and having an impact like you're having.
Well, I think, if I rewind to when I started teaching, I was always a teacher who was playing around with Prit and scissors and making little extra things and doing extra things. And I think nearly all teachers do that, but I think really relishing those parts of your teaching that are possibly a little bit away from your curriculum or your prescribed coursebook or whatever, and those extra things, whether they be things that you're doing in the community, sort of sometimes things that seem a bit random that you're connecting together, activities that that might be a bit sort of not the first thing you'd think of. So those are the things actually in my career, which now is about 30 years long, I guess. Those are actually the things that have probably given me the most pleasure and have actually led on to the most exciting and sort of, larger impacts in my own career. So the other thing I'd say is there are lots of people out there, and if you ask for help, or if you take a chance on sending something off to somebody, in my case, I had made these little books that we just photocopied for the classroom and were only used with my students. But my sister said, "Oh, why don't you send those off to a publisher?" And I hadn't thought of doing that. And then I did. And I put threw them in an envelope and sent them off. And they just, so if you have a lot of irons in the fire, if you do want to do this kind of thing, they're very enriching in your day-to-day teaching, but also they do open doors to other exciting sort of things that then lead on to other things. So Pick-a-Pals now, which really is a pretty large-scale, impactful environmental program around behavior change, traces it. If I look back through why did Pick-a-Pals happen, it happened because of Potato Pals 25 years prior to that, and it happened because of Prit and Scissors and doing all those little extra things. And then when I taught in a junior high school, I was involved in the study abroad program. And we used to do snail mail parcels. We'd get the kids to make, not email. What was it called? Post.
What was that again?
Yeah, packages of like postcards and sweets that we'd send to all different countries, and then the kids. So those extra projects. I think projects is probably the word. So projects for your students and projects for yourself. And I know everyone's tired, everyone's busy, everyone's trying to keep up and do stuff. But actually, I think those projects are the things that sort of trigger other things and make I'm probably teaching Granny to suck eggs here, because I'm sure all the people listening to this are enthusiastic and engaged teachers. But in my case, those are the things that have led on.
And what I think really stands out about this, because like you say, the listeners of this podcast, they're very motivated. They are proactive in their communities. They're keen to seek opportunities to bring out new ideas to their classroom or pursue new careers or just stay up to date with the trends. I think the key thing here is, with all those things they're doing, is don't be afraid to share it. Make sure other people know about it. Like your sister was the one who said, "Hey, why don't you just send it to a publisher, those books?" And I think once you start sharing, even over a coffee, or inviting people to kind of take part in a project with you, or even do a little 5-minute observation of your class to see what you're doing, that can be the thing that sparks those conversations where people say, "Hey, have you thought about this?"
Yes, I 100% agree with you. And this is something that actually I'm learning more and more with Pick-a-Pals going on. At the beginning, I think I was I was sort of competitive and a little bit sort of, "Oh, this is my movement, and I want to," and you look at other things and think, are we better than that? Or, we've thought of something that isn't that, or, so I was definitely in that mindset. And more recently, over the last couple of years, I've understood how much more benefit there is to be open and to contact people who are doing something very similar to you and say, "Hey, we're doing something really similar. This is amazing. Let's work together on some sort of collaboration." And that means that you're building a community. Now, I've been working away on some, case in point, I've been working away on some board games for Pick-a-Pals, and I've done a whole bunch of board games, versions of Snakes and Ladders and Ludo and this. And yesterday, I came across, through another person who I'd connected with, another environmental teacher, a whole company in Bali that has made the most wonderful range of board games around environmentalism. That some of them are the same ones I've made, and some of them are completely different ones I hadn't thought of. And they've got a whole bunch of stuff. So now I'm going to be contacting them and saying, "Hey, listen, we're on the same page here. Why don't we, there's lots of opportunities." And I think that makes the day much more fun as well. And, full of great people. and particularly the environmental and the teaching worlds. So I think the sweet spot between environmentalism and teaching, and of course primary teachers are the best of all, by far, is an absolutely it's full of lovely people, and so it's a shame not to connect up with those people.
Well, let's close today's episode then with how they can contact you, Patrick. How can folk find you and have those conversations and get involved with Pick-a-Pals?
I'm on LinkedIn. Pick-a-Pals is on everything, I think. I'm on LinkedIn, and the website for Pick-a-Pals, I hope you might be able to link it. It's pickapalsworld.org. If you get in touch via the expression of interest form or just reach out to me, I'm delighted to hear from people and make new friends. So thank you so much for today. Really fun.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Patrick. Always a delight interviewing on TESOL Pop.
Thank you.